All right, let's get right into this. I want you to picture an apartment right in the heart of Paris. Its door was locked just as the world was about to be torn apart by World War II. And unbelievably, it wasn't opened again for over 70 years. And what they found inside, well, it's an incredible story of forgotten treasure, a lost masterpiece, and a mystery that is still debated to this day. So let's set the scene. It's 2010. An estate expert is standing in front of this very door. His job is to inventory an estate, but this is something else entirely. The key in his hand is heavy, old. The lock groans as it finally turns, and the air that rushes out to meet him smells like another time, a mix of old paper, dried wood, and perfume that hasn't been breathed in for decades. Now here's the part that's truly mind-boggling. The owner, who had recently passed away at 91, had paid the rent on this apartment every single month for 71 years. Can you believe that? She never missed a payment, but she also never once came back to open that door. Just try to wrap your head around the sheer scale of time we're talking about. That door closes in 1939. World War II devastates Europe. The Cold War begins, cultures are completely reinvented, the Berlin Wall goes up and comes down, and through all of that, this one room just sat there, a perfectly preserved bubble of the past. And get this wasn't an accident. It wasn't some forgotten property. This was a deliberate choice, made month after month, year after year, for over 7 decades. The granddaughter who fled Paris at the start of the war kept paying for this silent, empty space, guarding a secret that apparently no one, not even our own family, knew about. So when the team of experts finally stepped inside, they weren't just entering a room, they were walking into a world in suspended animation. I mean, every single footstep they took disturbed a 70-year-old layer of dust, breaking a spell that had lasted a lifetime. And that's not me being poetic, that was the exact phrase the executor used to describe what he saw. And it's perfect, right? This wasn't just some old, dusty apartment. It was a real-life fairy tale, a place where time itself had just gone to sleep. The state of preservation was just astonishing. The dust was so thick, it softened the edges of every single object. Cobwebs hung from the crystal chandeliers like these strange, ghostly curtains. It was a perfect time capsule, an unintentional museum for an era that was long, long gone. And then, their flashlights landed on something totally bizarre. Standing there in the corner was a full-sized taxidermy ostrich, also covered in that same thick gray dust. It was this magnificent, totally extravagant symbol of the wealth and, frankly, the eccentricity of the period it came from. Just to give you a little context, the whole apartment was a snapshot of the Belle Epoque. We're talking about a time of high art, lavish parties, and intense romanticism in Paris, right before the First World War changed absolutely everything. This apartment was like a ghost of that beautiful, lost world. Okay, so beyond the initial shock and, the ostrich, the team had a job to do. They had to figure out the value of this estate. So they started to carefully look for the apartment's biggest secret, which, as it turns out, was hiding in plain sight the whole time. Over on a vanity table, they found old hairbrushes, makeup bottles, candles. It was this incredibly personal scene, a human moment just frozen in time. You could almost feel the presence of the original owner, a woman named Marthe de Florian, like she'd just stepped out for a moment and was about to return. The real breakthrough, the key to the whole thing, was found in a stack of old love letters, all tied up with a ribbon. And these weren't just any letters. They were from some of the most powerful and famous men of the time, including a French prime minister. But one name really stood out, Giovanni Boldini, one of the most famous portrait artists of the Belle Epoque. Because hanging on the wall was this massive, absolutely stunning painting of a beautiful woman in a pink evening gown. It was obviously Marthe de Florian herself. But here's the catch. There was no signature on the canvas. So who painted this masterpiece? Well, the answer was right there in the letters. By cross-referencing a book written by the painter's own widow, the experts confirmed it. The painting was a lost masterpiece by none other than Giovanni Boldini, a portrait of his lover, Marthe de Florian, that he completed way back in 1888. And its value? Absolutely staggering. Because it had been locked away from sunlight for over 70 years, the colors were perfectly preserved, as vibrant as the day they were painted. When it finally went to auction, it sold for 2.1 million euros, a world record for the artist. But for all the treasure they found, the biggest mystery is still hanging in the air. It's not about what was in the apartment, but why. Why did the granddaughter, who lived all the way until 2010, keep paying for a place she would never ever set foot in again? There are really two main theories. Was it an act of conscious preservation? Did she know about the masterpiece and decide to protect her grandmother's world from the modern one? Or was it an emotional burden? Was it a shrine to a beautiful pre-war life that was just too painful to look at again after everything that happened? Honestly, we'll probably never know for sure. And what about today? Can you go visit it? Well, the painting has been sold and the other treasures have been removed. But the apartment itself? It's not a museum. The full inventory of everything found inside has never been released, the location is kept secret, and that door remains locked to the public. The family wanted complete privacy. You know, what this story really reminds us is that history isn't always in some grand museum or a dusty textbook. Sometimes it's right next door, locked behind a forgotten door, just gathering dust. It's protected by a simple lock and a quiet 70-year-old secret. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other stories are out there just waiting patiently in the dark, waiting for someone to turn the key?